Hello friends, I am Shivaji Bhaskar, Faculty of Russian at the School of Foreign Languages IGNOU. I welcome you all to this course, Basics of Russian Communication Skills Part 1. As you are already aware that in our previous modules we have discussed about various aspects of the Russian grammar. We have also discussed about various other aspects like the Russian alphabet, its letters, then we distinguish them as vowels and consonants. You have also seen that how these vowels and consonants are combined together in order to make you aware their sound and structure. Since Russian is a very rich language, that is why we also recommend you to keep in your mind various aspects as well as exercises and activities for which we have been doing a lot of effort. Now, in this module, we will be discussing about such other concepts and we will be making a few sentences. As you already know, the usage of sentences like simple sentence, interrogative and affirmative. And in this particular module, we will be using the word niyat. This expression of niyat is very important because it adds negation. As you already know, while using the opposite style of expressing is niyat. So let's pay attention to certain examples which we have and understand the meaning. So the first sentence I am going to read is basically an interrogative where you will find that the pitch of the sound is rising at the end. Это стол. Alright, we already know that это means this. Since it is a question, you already know because of the pitch of the sound which is rising at the end. So, это стол, when I am asking a question, это стол, which means is this a table? So, likewise, whenever you want to make your own questions in Russian, the pitch of the sound at the end would rise. So, this is a concept which we also discussed in our previous modules, which is known as intonation. Alright. So now we are going to discuss the second sentence which has the word niyat. Niyat. Это не стол. And as a concept which we discussed in the previous module, whenever we are using не, we have to have a pause. So niyat. Это не стол. Не стол. Это стул. Это стул. So I am explaining, no, this is not a table, this is a chair. As you already know, stol means table and stool means chair. You can have numerous such examples which you can also use while using several other words. For example, if I want to make another important sentence, let's replace stol and stool with ruchka и kniga. Ruchka, you know, it's pen, and kniga is a book. So I'm going to ask, is this a pen? Это ручка. Then I would want to say, no, this is not a pen, this is a book. Нет, это не. Это не ручка, это книга. So the noun remains same. The ending remains same, there would be no change. Only we have to focus on the usage of нет. Alright? Okay, now the second one is, это книга. Нет, это не книга, это журнал. You already know the meaning of книга and журнал. Книга is book and журнал is journal. Now the next one is, это студент. Нет, это не студент, это преподаватель. You already know the meaning of student. Student means student and преподаватель means professor or teacher. So, and you already also know that we have discussed that there are specific genders in Russian like masculine, feminine and neuter, and likewise there are certain words which are as per the gender, like student is a male student. If I want to say a female student, then it has to be studentka. Okay, and likewise for prepodavachil, if it is a female professor or a teacher, then it has to be prepodavachilnitsa. Okay, all right. Now the last one is это карта. Нет, это не карта, это картина. So here we have a word karta, which means a map. Нет, это не карта. No, this is not a map, Это картина. This is a painting. So I hope this concept is clear to you, and you can also make your own such examples with the help of various words which we are doing in our modules. And please pay attention to the structure of words while using simple eta, and you can also ask question by putting the question mark. However, when you will pronounce it, the rise of the tone would go higher at the end, and while using niyat there would be a small pause, and eta ni, stol, stool, kniga, ruchka, journal, whatever you want you can use depending upon the context. Alright. So as you are already aware about certain aspects of the Russian grammar and phonetics which we have been doing on our previous modules, now I am going to talk about a dialogue where you will see certain such names which are very popular in Russia and certain concepts where we use the question где. Где, as you already know, that it is being used only in the prepositional case or the предложный падеж in Russian. So please pay attention while I read it for you. Masha. Где мой красный портфель? Masha is the name of a female. Где мой, where is my, красный, you already know, means red, портфель, briefcase. Masha, где мой красный портфель? Там в углу, there in the corner. В углу means in the corner. Нет, это не мой портфель. No, this is not my briefcase. Мой портфель не такой старый. My briefcase is not that old. Sasha, не знаешь, где мой портфель? So here you can also replacing Sasha from Masha, but Sasha is the short form of Alexander in Russian. So Sasha, не знаешь, где мой портфель? You can also replace портфель from any other word. Like in this example, let's use новая книга. Sasha, не знаешь, где моя новая книга? So, Sasha, don't you know where is my new book? Here we are going to answer it in affirmative. So, I am going to use да. Да знаю, твоя книга справа. And as we already know, the directions, справа means on the right. So, on the right means on the right hand side, your book is there. So, да знаю, yes I know. Твоя книга справа, your book is on the right side. So, you can also make your own sentences like this using niyat or da. Okay, so here in this example itself, when we started the first one, you found a word krasny, portfel. Krasny in a form of an adjective and portfel is a noun. However, if you remember when we were talking about how to identify the genders of the nouns, we have read that whenever a word ends with hard ending, then it belongs to the masculine gender, but not necessarily always. There are certain exceptions. The one you can see is portfel ending with soft sign, but it is a masculine gender word. So these kind of examples you need to learn by heart in order to answer them properly. So the question is, Masha, где мой красный портфель? Там в углу. Нет, это не мой портфель. Мой портфель не такой старый. Саша, не знаешь, где моя новая книга? Да знаю, твоя книга справа. And in this case, we have kniga, and it is a very simple word. Since it ends with a, naturally belongs to the feminine gender. That is why novaya kniga. Okay, I hope this concept would be clear, and you may please use these kind of other words in the form of sentences. Okay, now let's go ahead. Here we are going to talk about another set of such sentences where I am going to use где, and you will see that how we can use directions. We already know sprava we already know Sleva and Vuglu, right? So now please pay attention. A где твоя книга? And where is your book? Моя книга слева. My book is on the left. Earlier it was on the right side, right? Sprava. Here in this case we are saying it is on the left. Sleva. Vuglu. Vuglu. Now we are going to talk about these expressions like Vuglu, Sprava and Sleva. However, we have already used them in our expressions in sentences, but just to make it clear, please pay attention and note them down in your notebooks in order to understand them even better. Vuglu means in the corner, Sprava means on the right, Sleva means on the left. Okay, you can always use где whenever you are going to use these three basic expressions. For example, где моя ручка, ручка, Vuglu, где моя книга, книга, Sprava, где мой портфель, портфель, Sleva, and many other numerous such examples can be made based on this basic concept. Alright, now let's go ahead and pay attention to some of the expressions, some of the sentences, so that we have a clear idea about how to use these constructions in Russian. So the first which I am going to ask is a question. У вас есть друг? У вас есть друг. Друг we already know means friend. У вас есть друг? Do you have a friend? Да, у меня есть друг. Yes, I do have a friend. So whenever we use есть, it symbolizes, it signifies that having something. So у вас есть? Да, у меня есть. You can also use нет, however, we will talk about that later. But let's focus on the usage of da first. So the first one is у вас есть друг? I am asking a question. So the rise is of the tone and texture is rising at the end. So the pitch of the sound at the end whenever we are going to pronounce it would rise. In the case of this sentence, друг. У вас есть друг? Да. У меня есть друг. So after the we have a pause and flat sound. We are answering. Then the next one. У вас есть бабушка? Do you have? Do you have бабушка? We already know. Babushka means grandmother. Do you have grandmother? Да, у меня есть бабушка. Yes, I do have grandmother. У вас есть журналы? Here, it is very important. Earlier, these nouns are in singular forms. Друг, бабушка, both are in singular forms. But журналы, журналы, it is a plural. So, у вас есть журналы? Да, у меня есть журналы. So, accordingly, the ending of the noun does not change whenever we are asking a question like this. However, if it is already in plural, so the answer would also remain in plural. Like in the last case, we read у вас есть журналы? Да, у меня есть журналы. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to this particular construction. Now I am going to use certain adjectives like we have done in our previous part. У вас есть красный карандаш? У вас есть красный карандаш? Karandash is pencil, we already know. Here we are denoting it with krasny, which means red. Krasny karandash. Krasny is in adjective form, that is why the ending of krasny is uy, kratki, whereas the ending of karandash is hard ending, which means masculine gender word. And we have a sentence with us, interrogative sentence. У вас есть красный карандаш? Now I am answering in affirmative. So when in affirmative, what do? We use da. So I'll put da first and then we'll have a pause and we'll complete the answer in a flat sound. Да, у меня есть красный карандаш. Да, у меня есть красный карандаш. Okay? You can also replace krasny with sinny, голубой, any other color and make your own sentence. It would help you in making your language richer and you will have a certain level of confidence in communicating Russian in day to day. Alright? Okay, so now let's pay attention to the next sentence. У вас есть новая русская книга? Новая русская книга. So here we have two endings. First новая, русская, and then the noun книга. So here instead of having only one, we are changing it into different style at all. So do you have new Russian book? Новая русская книга. Да, у меня есть новая русская книга. Alright, so now the next one is у вас есть младшая сестра? As in Russian, when we talk about relations, when you have siblings, elder or many other members in the family, you have certain words which we use to identify. For example, if you have mladshaya sestra, it means that it is your sister. So in this sentence we are asking a question, у вас есть младшая сестра? So in a family, when we have younger or elder, we have certain connotations. So in this case we have mladshaya, which means younger. У вас есть младшая сестра? Do you have a younger sister? Да, у меня есть младшая сестра. Yes, I do have younger sister. Alright, now let's go ahead and pay attention to certain words and expressions now, which are going to be very useful in your day-to-day communication in Russian. So we have Добрый день, we have Как вас зовут, we have Очень приятно. These kind of expressions you will be using most oftenly in Russian while communicating. And now in a form of a dialogue, let's pay attention. Добрый день, добрый день. So let's assume that we have two characters A and B. So the A is asking добрый день, then the B would reply добрый день. Как вас зовут? Меня зовут Anna. А как вас зовут? So in the second case, the person is asking what is your name, and then character B is answering меня зовут Anna. А как вас зовут? And what is your name? Then the character A is answering меня зовут Андрей. My name is Andrei. Очень приятно. Character B replies очень приятно. Nice meeting you, pleasant meeting you. It can be translated like that. Then the character A is asking a question, вы студент? Are you a student? Now let's pay attention to the next part. Нет, я не студент. Я химик. No, I am not a student. I am a chemist. Видите, там большая фабрика? Do you see there a big factory? Я работаю там. I work there. А я врач. And then the character A is answering Anna. А я врач. And I am a doctor. Ваша поликлиника далеко? Now Andrei is asking Anna, ваша поликлиника далеко? And your polyclinic or the clinic is far? Andrei is asking Anna, and then Anna is answering нет, совсем рядом, no, it is very near. Видите красные здания? Do you see these red buildings? Это наша поликлиника. This is our polyclinic. So these kind of constructions in the form of a dialogue, as you have seen in case of Andrei and Anna. You may please also pay attention to the gender. How do we change the pronouns, personal pronouns, and some of the constructions. You can also pay attention to the situation, how the two people are communicating with each other. We have seen certain professions in this text as well, where person A and person B are having different professions. Like Andrei is having profession of chemist, whereas Anna is a doctor. Alright. Andrei works in a factory, whereas Anna works in a polyclinic. So these kind of situations, you can also have your own text based on this kind of constructions. You can replace the names, you can replace the many other professions which you already know, like Prapadavachilnitsa, engineer, power, vrach, and many other which we have learned in our previous modules, and make your own new text. Alright, I hope this kind of things which we use in Russian is clear to you now, and then you can also make your own sentences in a form of a question, which means interrogative sentences, and you can also answer with the or niyat depending upon the context. Alright, now let's go ahead and pay attention to a very important aspect of the Russian grammar and Russian speech is whenever we are talking to or talking about time, how do we say? So if I want to say what is the time, then in Russian we use expression katori chas, what is the time. So as you will be learning in details in a dedicated module, because this would help you in formulating the time, how to say time, and how to understand the time in a detailed manner in genitive case. So I am going to just say a few sentences where you will have slight idea about how do we say time in Russian. So it is very simple, katori chas, what is the time? If it is 1 o'clock, then we have to say сейчас час, chas. You can also simply say chas in place of сейчас час. It is a very popular expression in Russian. Then you can use for 2 hours сейчас 2 часа, or simply 2 часа, 3 часа, 4 часа, 5 часов. Okay? Why do we use this kind of construction? In genitive case, this is a set rule. Chas, single. When we are changing into 2, because it's masculine, so 2 часа, 3 часа, 4 часа, but 5 часов. Okay, and likewise it would change in feminine gender as well, neuter gender as well when we do counting. So for the time being we will only focus on these very simple concept. We will certainly talk about genitive case in detail in our dedicated modules. Okay, now let's go ahead. So as we have been discussing about certain concepts of Russian grammar in this module, now we are having a very important expression of counting. As you already know that we have used the expression katori chas, which means what is the time, and here you can see like 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we actually have a particular method in Russian. Normally we talk about this in the case which is known as genitive case. So whenever you have word or noun which is of masculine gender, it is used as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we categorize as 1 differently, then 2, 3, 4 and then 5. How do we do it? You have an example with you. 1 час, 2 часа, 3 часа, 4 часа and 5 часов. So likewise, whenever you have a word of masculine gender in Russian, you can also count it like that. Let's have some examples so that we can understand. Alright, so we have already learned about this chas, which is masculine gender. Now let's take another word you can talk about while counting. As you already know that we have feminine gender as well as neuter gender, so we can also have words from these, and we will see a great change when we count them from 1 to 5. How do we do it? Let's have a word kniga. So in place of ajin, it would change into adna because of the gender. Instead of ajin, adna, and kniga remains kniga when we are counting 1. So 1 book means adna kniga. When we are saying 2 books, so it would be dve kniги. 3 kniги, 4 kniги and 5 knig. So this is a particular concept which you have to keep in your mind while conversing in Russian, and you can also make your own sentences with the help of skolka. Skolka means how much or how many. So for example, with skolka the plural form, which means which we use in the 5, will always be used. For example, skolka knig, skolka часов. So like this you can also make your own sentences. For example, if I have 2 books, so I would say у меня есть 2 книги. Alright. For example, if you want to try this exercise with a word which is of masculine gender, you can have word like brat, which means brother. So 1 brat, 2 brata, 3 brata, 4 brata and 5 bratchev. So here it changes into bratchev. This you can also remember in order to use it wisely in your communication. Now let's make a sentence. If I want to say that I have 3 brothers, у меня есть 3 брата. Then you can also have another word like sestra or sister. Одна сестра, 2 сестры, 3 сестры, 4 сестры, 5 сестер. So the sestra changes into sister when it is 5, and there are numerous examples. You can use all the different words depending upon their gender, they will be changed. Now let's take one example of neuter gender like IGNOU. So we have done один, одна, now одно. окно, 2 окна, 3 окна, 4 окна and 5 окон. So it will be changed like that, and you can pay attention to numerous other such constructions where it would help you in order to make several other sentences. So as we already know that how we are going to count all these important things in Russian, we have to be very clear about the usage. You can also make your own sentences where you can use some of the concepts like we have done, где, сколько. For example, где мы встречаемся, where are we going to meet. So you can use the preposition в, где в. Suppose if you want to say that we will meet in the auditorium, то мы встречаемся в аудитории. And likewise you can also use hours. Во сколько? Во сколько мы встречаемся? At what time do we meet? 2 часа мы встречаемся, в час встречаемся и так далее. И так далее means etc. You can also use certain expressions. For example, during the class, if the professor or teacher says that let's take a break for some time, so перерыв means break, interval, and for how much time. So then you can change from hour to minutes. So in Russian, minute is called minuta, одна минута, женский род or the feminine gender. So when we use minuta, 5 minut, for example, let's take a break, давайте перерыв за 5 minut. So you can also use this kind of expressions in Russian. You can further use many other situations where you can actually use these kind of activities in a very efficient manner. We shall be discussing about this concept in a detailed manner in a dedicated module, so that you keep yourself prepared in advance that how we are going to talk about counting certain things, certain words which belongs to these 3 genders, and how do we frame our sentences. I hope you all like this session, and we will be discussing more such concepts in our upcoming module. Thank you.